Welcome, folks. We are really thrilled to have you in our final project course, and we want to use this time to your benefit. So why don't we just go ahead and let you fire away at us and see how we might be able to help you. So, Ellen, how about if we give you first crack?
Okay.
What would you like to ask?
At first, I want to write a research proposal on the effect on exercise on spatial navigation deficits after traumatic brain injury. And I'm sort of stuck now. I want to show you something. It was here I have a picture of the relation between navigation and memory, and it is proposed that path navigation is related to episodic memory, and map-based navigation is related to semantic memory. And that are the cognitive maps that you often find. And how do I get back? Okay, did you see that, or did I do something wrong?
We did not see your screen, just your face.
I'll try it again. We'll do it like this. No, it's not going. Okay, I'll stop it then. Do you see me again? Okay. Well, the point is, it is suggested that allocentric navigation is related to semantic memory, and egocentric navigation is related to episodic memory. In patients with brain injury, the hippocampus is often damaged, and there you find that they can't use cognitive maps, and they have problems with episodic memory. Well, if you relate episodic memory to egocentric navigational frames, I would think I would find it in the parietal lobe. So I'm a bit confused there. I totally get all the analogies, but then when I try to fit it with what I know, then I think it doesn't fit. Could you explain it?
I think it's difficult to explain. I think you're on to a really interesting question, and I think it's one that probably suits itself very well to the research proposal option here. Precisely because we don't know the answers to all of these things. One of the things that's always puzzled me is that the descriptions of patients that have had profound hippocampal damage and profound memory deficits for any time scale longer than 20 minutes or something like that, is that it's really the memory deficits that has been described and not navigational deficits. But first of all, let me just say there could be literature I don't know about in this regard. And secondly, if you can imagine that if somebody has a really profound ability to form new memories, they're probably not doing a whole lot of being out and about on their own and trying to find their way. So those kinds of deficits could certainly have been overlooked in studies that have focused on the memory aspects of it.
Okay.
Yes. So is that helpful? Is that on point?
Well, it explains it to me that it's okay to be confused.
Yes, absolutely. In fact, I think that's one of the general aspects of writing a research proposal is to say, hey, look, we're really confused about this. We need to do more research to figure it out.
Yes, but I don't want to do research especially on that field, but then I'll sort of write down that it is still not clear.
Mm-hmm.
Let me add one more point to that. I mean, you mentioned semantic memory, and it seems that in general that can't have all that much to do with navigation, because animals obviously navigate perfectly well without any lexical or semantic information. So that kind of makes you think twice about any claims that have to do with semantics.
Well, I do get that semantic memory and cognitive maps do relate to each other, but it's just I was not completely sure about the place where to find it in the brain, because patients with traumatic brain injury often have trouble with their episodic memory and with their forming cognitive maps. So that would be a link between semantic memory and cognitive maps and episodic memory. So that's a link that I didn't find in the literature.
Mm-hmm. I think another issue here is that with the animal literature, it's difficult to tell the difference between semantic and episodic memory. So, whereas in a human, semantic memory might be connected to language, you could still imagine that an animal would have sort of knowledge that this kind of bush produces this kind of berries without necessarily, and the brain mechanisms for doing that might be distinct from memories of saying this kind of bush had this kind of berry on it last week. So the latter case of having a specific time and place would be episodic, whereas the other kind.
Maybe it's more interconnected than I've thought.
Yeah, it may be.
And I think the other point, Ellen, that you might want to think about is how can you potentially tease apart the contributions of the parietal lobe from the parahippocampal gyrus in the navigational aspects of your question. So I know that that's been part of your issue as well. How does one differentiate the contributions of these different interconnected parts of our overall spatial awareness or sensory motor transforming circuit that helps us guide through the spaces in which we move? So I think that in itself is still not clear.
I'll sort of leave it in my research proposal, and I won't go into it much deeper. I want to ask another question before I give the floor to someone else, and that is about the literature, the citations. Do you have to use the format, the name and the date, and then the literature list, or can you use another form of citation by using numbers? Do you have to use the style that is given in the instructions, or are you free to use another formal style?
I think either way is perfectly okay, and you see both methods asked for in different journals in different situations, different review panels, and so on. So I'd feel free to use whatever you find convenient. If you're using endnotes or something that you like to work with numbers, fine.
Okay, and I have another question. How does it have to be done in the popular press articles? Does it have to citations have to take the same form as in the research proposals?
Yeah, the same form, just in press if it's available. So I mean, it should be available someplace in pre-publication form, or you can say personal communication if you've gotten it from a colleague that's in press but hasn't come out yet, but you know about it through that collaboration.
Yeah, but
numbers might be good in the popular press articles because they don't get in the way of the reader kind of reading for flow. But I don't have any strong feelings about it, and anything that adequately documents where the information is coming from is totally fine.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Ellen. We'll go on to somebody else, but maybe we can come back to you if we expire the questions. Okay, anybody else like to jump in next?
Yes, I have one question.
Yes, Rodrigo, welcome.
Thank you. The first question is about the methodological point. Are you planned to check all of the proposals, or just is a peer evaluation methodology? So you professors, are you planning to check the research proposals?
Yes, that would be the idea.
Okay, that's good to know. That's good to know, because according to the methodology, it seems like it's just for peer evaluation. It's not for evaluation from you as professors.
Well, I think the group is small enough so that if it was a very large group, of course, we wouldn't logistically be able to do that. But if it's a small group and there's a small number, I think it's fair to say that we will take a look ourselves.
Now we don't want to take the place of the community, because really that's an important part of the experience, is for you to be able to review and to provide constructive feedback to others. But we intend to look at everything.
Yeah. I think the scoring is likely to come solely from the peer evaluation rubric, but we've been looking at the discussion forums and following along, and we're looking forward to seeing the finished products.
Okay, that's good to know. That's good to know, because probably your feedback will be very helpful, not only for this course, but also for if we are planning to continue in this field.
So Rodrigo, can I ask, why are you taking this course?
Because my field of work is trying to modulate perception. To construct numerical model of perception. In fact, my project is to develop new and update models about wineness perception. Not specifically because I am in the industry field, and wineness and cleanliness perception are very important to perception in several industries. For that reason, wineness perception there has been a lot of activity trying to develop formulas to represent consumer wineness perception. The new theory, is not totally new, but this new approach conducted by Dr. Purves, it sounds very interesting to include as a modeling approach. With the intention to represent consumer perception, because according to the theory of vision in whole empirical terms, the environmental vision scenarios, or the environmental visual scenarios in a group or individual life can modify connections. And that could explain, for example, the fact that in several regions of the world, for example, in the case of Latin America, there is a very different wineness perception in different consumers groups. For example, if you see the facts that in the Peruvian consumer market, for example, there is a totally well-reported different wineness perception in comparison with, for example, the Brazilian market, the Brazilian consumer market. But if you keep into account the environment visual scenarios that the consumers are in Peru in comparison with Brazil are totally different for several reasons, including the fact that the flags, the country flags, it's a good representation about color during the person's life. For example, the white color for the Peruvian people is totally different in comparison with the white surface from a Brazilian consumer. So I think the theory of how vision works in whole empirical terms probably could be a good way to explain that kind of difference in big groups of people, according to the lives that they are in some specific visual scenarios.
Well, that's certainly a very interesting topic, and I look forward to what you're going to say about it. I'll learn something.
Are you in Peru, Rodrigo?
No, I am in Ecuador.
Ecuador. Okay.
Ecuador, close to Peru and Brazil.
Yeah. Well, it's good to have you in the course. Thank you for your questions and for your work.
Thank you, because I really learned a lot with you, professors.
Okay. Well, let's see. David, are you online and ready to go?
Yeah, we are online. Can you hear me?
Yes.
First, I want to say hello for everyone here, and I feel really, how can I say that? Like, I don't know if I can be really fluent in my English and speak in a really good way, but I am going to do my best. So,
It's funny.
I want to say thank you. I feel really good because I am learning from the best. So I feel like I have a big opportunity with my peers and my partners and with you professors. So, okay, my point is about my proposal is like I am thinking about Parkinson's disease and everything that I am learning right now. So right now I am working on Foundation Parkinson in my country. I'm from Colombia, by the way. So in this moment I am thinking about visual spatial problems related with Parkinson's disease, and I am thinking more about memory, visual spatial memory. I am taking many things from different kind of articles, and as I wrote before in my proposal, I wrote that I am taking different kind of information from different books as making space, and another one is the brains, how they seem to work. That is by Professor Hurst. That is a good way. I don't know how can I say your last name.
Purvis.
Can you say
Purvis.
Yeah, Purvis. That is a good way.
Yeah, that's fine.
So sorry if I can't say it in a good way. So this is I am not sure what is my subject point, but this is my friend in this moment. So I am thinking about it. I am just reading in this moment, but I am trying to figure out what I want to do in a real good way, because it's so hard to take this kind of information because it's too much information for me. Even if I am a psychologist, even if I am working in a different kind of investigation group in philosophy and psychologists and neuropsychologists, even if that for me is too much information to get this and put this in a really current way. So I don't know. I can ask in this moment for a specific question. I just can say that I am working around it in this moment.
Well, I think what you're saying fits very well with the organization of the capstone, because you'll get feedback as you go along as to what other people think and what we think about, the project that you're proposing. So it's not like you have to have the correct project right from the beginning. I mean, you can modify it as you go along, as you get more deeply into the literature and more deeply into your own thoughts about it. So I wouldn't worry too much. You'll have plenty of feedback.
And it does strike me as a very interesting question that you might want to develop. What is the impact of idiopathic Parkinson's disease on memory? There might be some really interesting ways to think about that. One might imagine a more or less direct impact of the pathology itself on the brain's memory systems, or one might imagine what does the bradykinesia do to the memory system. There's lots of interesting philosophical perspectives on the primacy of movement relative to different dimensions of cognition, including memory. So I think it's a reasonable thought to pursue. I think you just have to be a bit patient and rely on the input from others in the course to help shape your thinking.
Yeah, when I started, I was thinking about freezing of gate, because freezing of gate is like something, like a topic, like you can think about everything, like perception, action, and the brain. That when I was looking for it, I found many papers, I found many information. I said, okay, this is too much for me. I need to go back and think again, because it's sometimes you feel like I just have like 5 weeks and I don't have anything else, so I need to use every week, and I prefer to take it just one point, but to be really clear. So I prefer to be more, how can I say, not be too ambitious and I prefer to take just one thing and try to develop this in the best way that I can do it.
Yeah, I think that's a good approach. I mean, we're all of us inundated by much too much information, and I think you'll be doing yourself a favor if you pick a small enough point so you feel comfortable getting your head wrapped around it.
Yeah, so in this moment I can answer the specific question for that, but I feel really good because I am listening everybody here, and I know that everybody's just beginning with the work, and I hope that everyone can get what they want. And I want to say again, thanks for this kind of opportunity. For me, it's a really good way to have this experience. For me, it's sometimes unbelievable. You know, it's sometimes like I am talking with purpose. I am talking with everybody there. So it's really good for me. It's like a dream.
Good luck.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, David. Invite your friends to join our courses too. We'd like to.
I will.
And Ecuador, other South American nations. Okay, thank you, David. Let's go. I'm sorry, your identifier is just the letter J, but you're on.
That looks like John.
John?
It's John. Yeah, sorry.
John, hi, welcome.
Hello. It's good to meet all of you together. It's been amazing to go through all your courses. I guess my specific question was, is there a good example of a research abstract? The rubric is very helpful, but seeing a completed example would be really useful to me.
Which of the capstone projects are you thinking about?
The research.
The proposal.
The proposal.
The research proposal, sorry.
Yeah, we talked a lot about that, and the idea was that any example would be very specific and might be misleading just because it would be so focused on some particular problem, some particular field. But I wouldn't worry too much about that. I mean, if you follow the instructions on the rubric, I think that should be fine. I mean, we don't want to mislead you by giving you an example that makes it seem that, oh, it has to be this particular way, because it doesn't. I mean, research proposals are all over the lot. I think what all of us would be looking for is something that's imaginative and creative, an interesting idea that's not just mimicking, what somebody else might have done in a slightly different way.
I think you actually have as much information in the rubric as most of us would get writing for a major federal grant. Obviously, there's a lot of institutional instructions that we receive that we're not burdening you with, but in terms of how you should approach your writing of the specified sections, I think you should have what you need. And we can certainly look at your early drafts and give you any direction if we think there's something that's not quite on track with our expectation. Okay, and I guess when we're done, we'll have seen quite a few examples from our peers as well as ourselves, so that'll be
also
very, very useful. Mm-hmm. Thank you. Just a few weeks from now, like 2 weeks from now, we'll begin to see what others are putting together for their draft.
Yeah, so I think you can think of it as a piece of persuasive writing. You're trying to convince, a hypothetical panel of reviewers to, support this research project.
Okay, that's good. Thank you. Okay, thank you, John. And let's go next to George.
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
I'm not sure you can hear me or you can see me.
You're very much in the dark.
Yes.
But we can hear you
We can hear you.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you just fine.
Okay, that's great. I'd like first to thank you a lot for the fantastic courses you offered via Coursera. And basically, my basic background is bioengineering. I was working for the University of Surrey in the UK for several years. Mm-hmm. And now I'm in Athens, where is my place of origin, and I work for rehabilitation hospital. My main areas is posture and gait and designing and fitting prosthesis, orthosis, and also I'm working on chronic pain management. So in the last 1 year or so, I'm trying to combine these three areas, so gait, posture, pain, and technical aids, let's say. And I'm sure that neuroscience has a lot of things to contribute to this approach. If I am allowed to, I would like to ask you about a question about the project.
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. I chose to make a research proposal, but my main question is, should I focus on the fact that this proposal game, let's say, is going to be evaluated by someone that probably funds the project, or is it something that is going to follow a route for a publication, let's say, on a peer-reviewed journal or something like this? So is the main point that we need to submit a proposal for funding, or this is the main point of interest to have in mind when we write down the proposal? And I think this is a question for all our peers.
Yeah, that's a good question. I think it's what Jenny just said a minute ago, that you're trying to convince a panel of people that basically they should support you. And support, let's be frank, means money. But, you know, translating it into an amount of dollars or drachma or whatever is really not the main point. I mean, the main point is to have something that is exciting enough so that somebody says, yeah, let's support this, even though in the end that money has to come from someplace, and I know in Athens that's probably a tough problem.
Mm-hmm. So it must be attractive, let's say.
Yeah, I think the main thing is to make it intellectually attractive.
Yeah, great. Okay, thank you.
Now, if you're thinking that perhaps some of the writing that you would do for a proposal could also be useful for a manuscript that might be submitted for publication, then that's absolutely possible. But I think you just have to keep in mind what is the strategic purpose of the writing that you're doing. And for this course, the proposal should be your structure. So you can include very similar background information, for example, and certainly as you discuss the significance of expected outcomes, that kind of writing could be portable into a manuscript that might follow, depending on what your work is and how it might relate to the rest of your life. But I think we do want to constrain it just a little bit and keep you focused on the grant proposal option. Now, of course, you could decide that maybe your ideas are better suited to the option that Jenny's been championing, which would be more of a communication to a lay audience, not necessarily people that are technically experienced in the field, and certainly not necessarily pitched as a funding proposal. So that would be your choice to sort out over the next week or so.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm trying to go somewhere to improve my image.
Okay, well, thank you for joining us, George. Let's go back to Ellen. See, Ellen, do you have anything else on your mind, or?
Okay, here I am again. Well, there is some tip I want to share with people that's a way to manage your literature and your citations. I use a program called Mendeley. I want to show it, so I'm going to try to screen share again. See if it works now.
While you're trying to arrange that, I'll just say I use Mendeley also, and I really like it. And
do you see it now?
Yeah, we see your screen.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes,
well, this is some part of the Mendeley desktop, and there's a help section where you can they have all the videos on how to do that. And I want to show you here. I have done this map with all the literature on exercise and TBI. I have all the literature on it, and you can do it. And I have also marked it out, and it's very, very easy to do. You have all your literature. You don't have to print anything. You can easily do that. And if you write a piece, you can insert. I'll show you here. You can insert, like here, I want to insert a citation, and it goes, and I want to find an author or something like that. And say I want to enter this, I do that, and I get my citation just like that. And in the end, I can get all my my literature in a list. So that's really very, very easy. And I really would recommend people to use it.
And this is freeware too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Another function that I use there is the tags. So you can tag articles with more than one topic that they might relate to. So if you have a particular article and it covers both episodic and semantic memory, you know, that could have episodic and semantic as tags. Other articles you might, you know, might be one category or another. It makes it very easy to pull up just the set of articles that are related to a particular aspect of what you're
doing. Yeah, and so really it makes it much, much easier to work, I think.
Great. Wonderful. Thank you for that, Ellen. Let's go next to oh, George. I think we can see you now.
Yes, I hope you can see me. Okay.
Yes, thank you. Thanks for turning the lights on. So let's go to Fahim. I think you're just now joining us. You need to unmute yourself, and then thank you. So go right ahead, Fahim.
Hi, I'm Fahim. Actually been following all the talk, but I was trying to figure out the Hangout thing, so finally I got it. I've been doing my PhD is in sensors and MEMS and wearables, and I've been developing medical devices for the last 10 years. Also writing grants and raising money. I've been very interested recently for the next generation product design, which would be based on neuroscience and your ability of deciding of how to buy things. But I changed interest a little bit after meeting Professor Busy from MIT here, who told me that I pretty much know nothing about neuroscience. So I said, okay, fine, I'll go back and learn, and I really enjoyed understanding a little bit of neuroscience from the 3 courses I learned from all of you, especially Professor White. Your course was very, very hard for me, especially I don't have any background in this area. I have maybe PhDs in mechanical, electrical, but I know nothing about biology and neuroscience, so I really appreciate it. So over the last 9 months, I've been trying to get more interested on how can I use all these sensor technology to make a little bit difference into the neurodegenerative disease. I had some interaction with Biogen here, especially in Alzheimer, and there is a new area where how can we make wearable devices maybe do something, either do an early detection of disease, or one of the ideas I start thinking about is how can these non-invasive devices maybe enhance drug delivery, not only be a supportive devices or detecting gait analysis, but maybe by driving signals in, maybe that will help in this area. I think the military also is very interested, which I've raised about $40 million over the last 8 years in R&D, but the military is interested a lot in Alzheimer and autism and a lot more in CDMRP. So I looked into what they are looking for. However, I decided to make this capstone project, if I can get some help, what happened in the area of non-invasive devices to help or augment delivering drugs, or supporting delivering drugs, or maybe making the drugs more effective. And I'm really struggling with the literature, because when you looking for non-invasive devices, you get a back pain, or some of the brain stimulation, which happened to the Parkinson's disease. People has been doing this for so long. So I didn't find enough literature or any literature in regards to how can you use non-invasive devices to push or to deliver or to help or to enhance drug delivery today. And if I want to focus it more, it will be on Alzheimer, dementia. One of my best friends just died in his early 60s, or autism, which is a lot of people now with autism. I really don't know where to go, but I believe between all of you, you may give me some help or some direction on where to go. Or and my hope is to create the next top research in the next 5 years.
So I don't know anything about these issues, so maybe I'll just say a couple of things about in general. How do you, are you still there?
Yes.
Okay. In general, how do you go about, finding information on these topics? So I find that a pretty critical aspect of it is to figure out what are some of the terms that you can search for. And that can be an iterative process. Often my first guess at what, might be good search terms don't turn out to be the best ones to use. But if I can find one or two publications that concern the topic that I'm interested in, then you can sort of forward chain from that, and you can look and see, well, what articles cited those studies. And I'm sure you've probably, been through a number of these steps, but Google Scholar is a good place to go to be finding the articles that cite things, because you can just click directly on the cited by link, and then you get a whole list. I don't know, do either of you have anything?
Well,
that might...
I mean, to look at this from another dimension, I mean, your choice seems to be between Alzheimer's and autism, and they're both very interesting areas. I mean, if you want to focus more on drug delivery issues, then I'm sure you're aware that there have been some, well, let's put breakthroughs in quotation marks, but at least some phase 3 clinical trials that look a little bit promising after a long dry spell in Alzheimer's. So if you're interested in drug delivery, that might be the better way to go, because for autism, there really isn't anything there that is comparable. On the other hand, I mean, autism is a kind of a more wide open intellectual challenge. So they're very different topics, but if it's drug delivery that you're interested in, I think I would maybe gravitate to Alzheimer's and the new drugs that appear to hold some promise for slowing down the disease, or well, I don't call it a disease, but slowing down the aging process.
You might also think about your definition of non-invasive. So,
yeah. So you're familiar with the TENS machines, with similar machines, which basically you can apply frequency, you can apply amplitude, you can apply different array ultrasonics. You can use any ways of applying magnetic field. You can apply analog. You can apply whatever signals you can put from the surface on the outside, which will help driving stimulation. Like, for example, we use heat to dissolve salt in water, for example. So heat is just moving energy. So if we can help or stimulate the drugs, would that make it more effective? And that's the idea. But you may tell me this is something new we don't know about, it is worth researching, or this is so stupid we don't want to go there, because I have 3 other proposals I would like to talk about.
Yeah, well, it's not a stupid idea. There have been various technologies that you're probably familiar with, like iontophoresis, that was very popular for a while, but then there were some serious questions about whether the drug is actually passing transdermally and whether the iontophoresis is doing any good. Of the ideas that you mentioned, one that does appeal to me is the idea of using the biometric data that you're gathering as a way to somehow modulate the delivery of a drug. So for example, here at Duke, there are some clinical trials using nicotine skin patches as a way to enhance attention and potentially memory in individuals with mild cognitive impairment. And so one might imagine that just slapping a nicotine skin patch on your arm is the right thing to do, but maybe that's not. Maybe there are particular times during the day where the delivery of the drug would be most beneficial to the patient, to the person, and maybe some kind of sensor that could track movement or activity or cognition might be a way of dosing the drug appropriately for that particular state of body and brain. So that idea appeals to me. I don't have specifics in mind for you, but
yeah, I guess the general question I think you're getting at is how can you make the drugs more specifically target the what needs to happen, and that could be done a variety of ways. You're talking about these external methods, the patch, the timing of it. Other hot areas include targeted in animal studies, targeted viral vectors to express certain genes in the genome in certain places in the brain. None of that seems like it's quite ready to go into these particular clinical conditions, but sort of a broader, but might lead you to some interesting possible avenues.
Just another thought, again, thinking about your sensory feedback. I think sort of augmenting sensory feedback might be a really interesting way to think about this, particularly with someone who has, let's say, a neurodegenerative condition that puts them at a falls risk. I think it'd be really, really terrific to have some kind of a device that might augment, let's say, proprioception just at the moment that it's needed to help to prevent something catastrophic like potentially a fall in an older adult. So I think you've got a lot of good ideas percolating there. Obviously, they have to become more particularized and productive. But you did mention you've got 3 or 4 other proposals, so maybe your other options are even better than this one.
Okay, I don't know if we have the time to talk about it, but I would love to.
Okay, well, how about if we give you just another few minutes and see if you can pitch a few other ideas at us, and then we'll make a round to some other folks too.
Okay, so the first one is using virtual reality, which is virtual reality now can help Alzheimer, and there is early research. It is talking about sensory feedback and virtual reality and Alzheimer, and how that will help enhancing the memory a little bit, and if we can augment that also with non-invasive stimulation, we maybe are getting live feedback, and with the eye tracking techniques, in addition to virtual reality trainings, combine all 3, we're maybe getting a complete system. So I have done the first 2 very well, demonstrated it, the virtual reality, and for training for above-knee amputee, and also did eye tracking for brain trauma injury. So we can combine this with my experience in sensory feedbacks to come up with a complete system that may be able to be used in research of Alzheimer improvement. That is one. The second one is early detection of Alzheimer. I have done some research in 2008 about how saliva can be an early detection of stress, chronic stress, and the chronic stress can be an early indication of Alzheimer as well. But I think there is, in recent years, there is another professor in Utah has been looking into saliva, and there is lots of lab research doing that. But with all the advances in wearable, now we can detect certain protein out of your skin sweat as well as an indication of an early Alzheimer. And if we can do this, we maybe change the world by telling people, hey, your stress is too high, we can see that in you, and you have all the factors of getting early dementia or early Alzheimer, and we maybe save a few people's life or delay their getting older.
Yeah, I mean, that's the problem with that. I mean, once you detect early cognitive decline and you tell somebody that, the next question they ask is, well, what can I do about it? And the answer is, well, we don't really have anything too definite that you can do about it to improve your situation. So, I mean, that's the trade-off with the drug delivery and the biomarker early detection. I mean, they're both interesting, but ethically, the problem in Alzheimer's is you tell somebody with early diagnosis they have it, that just makes them unhappy because there's nothing to do about it, or at least not much.
Where Ellen is pointing out that exercise would be the one
Good
thing.
for everything.
Yeah, it's good for everything.
Right, and if a person's not capable of moving their body, I think it'd be really interesting to ask whether virtual movement via your virtual reality is, you know, the one thing we're learning, and I think it's very encouraging for all of us, is that the single best thing you can do for your brain is to move your body. And so what we don't know is whether virtual movement is also beneficial. And I think you might be in a position to develop some kind of a proposal around those ideas.
I think that's a pretty interesting area. Just, this is not exactly a scientific journal, but in last week's Time magazine, which is, I don't know whether you know it, one of the American weekly news magazines, on the cover was one of the young startup companies that's working on virtual reality, and the whole point of the extensive article in the magazine was how quickly this is becoming cheap, widely used, that the next 10 years is going to see a revolution in the application of virtual reality. So you'd be, you know, on board with something that's happening in the view of a lot of people, and applying it to virtual exercise. Really great idea.
So if you'd like to rank the three concepts without going into 10 ideas, what would be your number one for the time we have? I know it's very limited time. I wish we have the capstone project going 17 weeks or something.
I think we'd all have different ideas, so I don't know. I don't want to prejudice you. I think you ought to do the one that you think is most interesting for your personal, you know, experience and potential for the future. So
that's all your opinions as well?
I agree.
Yeah, I think we agree. You know, you can always. I mean, we're going to repeat this, right? So you can always come back and do some of your other ideas. But I think it will be most meaningful if it really aligns with your own interests and what's going on in the rest of your life and how it can really advance your career. So that's something that you have to decide.
Would anyone be interested into co-writing proposal to the Army?
You mean us or all of you?
Two professors. Maybe working also with Leahy Clinic hospitals.
I think our lives are busy enough without co-writing something for the Army, but
yeah, we're already doing this in our spare time essentially. So as much as we would love to think that we might offer that kind of partnership, it's really beyond what we're capable of doing, I'm afraid.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Fahim. How about if we go back to John? Do you have anything else, John, or any comments on the discussion so far?
Oh, can you unmute?
You're muted, John.
There we go. I don't have a lot else to add. I really appreciate the discussion, and I guess I'll say I really appreciate the time that you all have put into these courses, because I know it's kind of an unpaid endeavor for you. So thank you very much for that.
Well, you guys make it worthwhile. It's really inspiring to find so many people out there who are so interested in having access to this kind of material.
You know, we have great students here at our university, but I got to tell you, it's been particularly invigorating to be part of this whole Coursera enterprise, to meet people like yourselves and realize that, you know, you're really in it to learn and to improve yourself, and perhaps even to advance yourself in your own intellectual journey and professional journey, whatever that may be. So we all find this extremely encouraging and inspiring to our own work. So thank you.
Agreed.
Did you expect anything like what is happening on the forum just now? Because I'm really amazed at all the different and all the inspiring ideas that everybody has. What did you expect?
Well, Len is fond of saying you can never overestimate what people will do in the Coursera forum. So I was expecting to be surprised, but yes, I am surprised.
Yeah, I didn't know what to expect, but I am enthusiastically endorsing what Len said.
From my side, just say thank you very much. Really, thank you for your support, for your time. I purchased some books from you, the book from Jenny, the book from Dr. White, several books from Dr. Perbs, and I really learned a lot from you, Professor. So thank you very much, and I hope you to keep some kind of contact with you in the future.
Good. I hope you do.
Thank you, Rodrigo.
Probably a good place to sign off.
Yeah,
So,
unless...
Can I say something?
Yes.
I don't know.
David,
Okay.
go ahead.
Thank you. I don't know how much time we have, but I want to take one couple of minutes to talk about. Oh, sorry. How can I say your name? Fahim? Can you hear me? Yeah, I don't know how can I say your name. If I am saying in a bad way, please forgive me. But I was listening to you when you talk about virtual reality and Alzheimer's disease, and I was really interested about it because it's really important. Even if I am working with patients with Parkinson, I have some kind of experience with patients with Alzheimer's disease. So I don't know if you know about the brain games and lumosity and another kind of brain games that many people use to do or to make rehabilitation, cognitive rehabilitation. So sometimes the virtual reality is really useful to make that kind of point with this kind of patients, but in a very specific area, like activities of the daily living, because it's really important, that point. So maybe you can search and you can looking for something around it to get, how can I say that, like a best friend to do your proposal or to get something, some kind of ideas or something like that. So I just want to make that point. And on the other hand, I want to say thank you again to Jennifer, Leonard, and their Urbes. Am I right?
Right.
Thank you so much. Thank you for your time, and thank you for everyone that is here taking this space to share everything. So thank you so much again.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
All right, well, I think we probably should wrap this up about here. Jenny, Dale, do you have any final thoughts to leave these folks with? Or?
No, just work hard.
Okay, and of course we always want to thank Nick. So there's Nick Jane sitting over there keeping track of things for us. So thank you, Nick, for everything you're doing to support us and to support everybody out there. So yeah, so please just keep plowing ahead and stay on schedule, and we'll do our best to support you as you support each other.
Okay.
All right. Thank you all.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Have a good day.
Bye-bye.